Hello and welcome to iHeart Reading. Damn it, I am your host, Jen Johnson, and today I am reviewing the book, The Burning Maze, which is the third book in the Trials of Apollo series, which is my favorite series of the Rick Riordan collection, of which you may better know him as the author of the Percy Jackson series. This is a brand new book. It came out in May. My library happened to have gotten it in May. I am just reading it now in June, and was so excited to get my hands on it. It's kind of impressive that a library can get a brand new book in the month in which it was released. So kudos to my local library. What? Awesome sauce. Okay, so a little bit about the book. For starters, as I said, it was released in May 2018. That was just last month. This is, as far as Goodreads scores, Goodreads gives it a 4.45, so essentially a 4.5. As for myself, I'm going to give it a 4. I enjoyed reading it, but I didn't feel like it was 5 worthy. I liked the very first book better, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. So again, this is the third book in the Apollo series, or the Trials of Apollo series by Rick Riordan. But what's really great about Rick's books is that they're all sort of interconnected in a sense. So something that happens in another series with different characters can apply. It all sort of is pushing forward with the one big theme of all of the books. So it's all sort of interrelated and interconnected. Okay, so what was the book about? This is the third book, as I said, in the Apollo series. And if you haven't read the other two books, essentially what has happened is Apollo has fallen from grace from Olympus. His father Zeus has cast him out because he feels like Apollo is basically fucked up. And Apollo is a very arrogant god, and that is part of probably the lesson that his father is trying to teach him. So when I say that his father Zeus kicks him out of the heavens, it means he strips him of all of his godly powers and leaves him as a sort of slightly overweight, acne teenager named Lester Papadopoulos. And when he is dropped off on Earth with no godly powers, his punishment is that he has to complete a quest. And to do that, he needs the help of the folks at Camp Half-Blood, and then the other one out on the West Coast that I can't remember the name of right this second. But, and by his side always is Meg, the demigod, who is kind of his master for his duration on Earth. And she's like 13, something to that effect. She's a woman, a teenager of few words, but I like their relationship together. So did I like it? Yes, I did like it. Initially, I wasn't quite so sure because it wasn't as playful as definitely the first book and partially the second book. I really, really love Apollo's character in the first book, especially because he did have this sort of playful, silly, zany side to him, which kind of balanced out his arrogance and inability to know what it is to be human. So yeah, initially I was missing that piece. I really, really liked that in the first book. But what I like about what happened in the third book is that Apollo is really settling in to what it is to be human and what that means, what it means to have friendships, what it means to care about people, what it means to have people in your life that you care about who get hurt, or people who maybe you lose. And what it is to be human in the sense of our frailty and our impermanence on this planet, but also in our endurance, in our resiliency to continue on. And he is really settling into this place and recognizing that actions have consequences. And before, where he'd been a god and just sent people off to do his bidding, and perhaps they died on their quest, no big deal, because I'm a god and that doesn't concern me. But now that he's really in the trenches with these people and making friendships, he cares about what happens to them. And so we get a fuller, richer Apollo, a more serious Apollo, who is really coming into his own in the sense of what it really means to be human. And I appreciate that. Did I say what the book was about? I can't remember if I did or not. Okay, so the book is about Apollo and his quest to free the oracles. So I believe there are 5 oracles in total that he is supposed to free. That's kind of his jam. He's the god of a lot of things, but one of them is oracles. And so he is tasked to free the oracles. Unfortunately, along the way, there are 3 very nasty and evil emperors who are getting in his way and making things very difficult and challenging. In this particular book, he and Meg and Grover, and then eventually Piper and Jason, all find their way or attempt to find their way through the burning maze so they can free the 3rd oracle in their 5 oracle journey. The emperor in this particular book, so in the first book we had Nero, in the second book we had Commodius, and then in this 3rd book there's a new emperor, the worst of the batch so far. And things get serious in this book. Things are getting real. The fire in the maze has created a fire on the surface, which means California is ablaze, and many of the dyads or the plants who are under Grover's care are suffering immensely. And so they're also trying to fight this unseen power and are working with Apollo to do that. As I was saying, this book definitely gets more serious than the other books have. And I really appreciate that, because I would say the one criticism that I would give to every series by Rick Riordan is that they just don't go quite deep enough, in the sense of there's always an easy out. So they get into these predicaments, but then I feel like there's just some magical way where everyone gets out essentially harm-free, which with all the battles that they're in, that just doesn't make a lot of logical sense. So what I like about this book is that Rick Riordan is kind of stepping up to the plate, stepping into the reality department more in step with, say, J.K. Rowling or George R.R. Martin, where we are coming into a more serious predicament, or a more serious reality, and just facing that life is a balance, life is impermanence, and that's part of Apollo's lesson, is learning all of the parts of what it is to be human. What did I love? I loved Meg's relationship with 7 new characters that show up at the end of the book. It's really funny. And I think that's a thing that I love about the Apollo series the most, is that there's a humor in it that isn't in any of the other books, at least in my opinion, of course. So yeah, the relationship to Meg and these 7 new characters at the end is very entertaining to me. What was missing was a little bit of the humor that the other 2 books had, but this is book 3, and shit's getting real, So Apollo is learning that life sometimes is hard, and so I think that's why there's been. I think that's why there's not as much humor in this book, because things are getting really, really real. As far as surprises, there is something that doesn't ordinarily happen in a Rick Riordan book, so I won't tell you what that is, but it's big news and it has been making people cry. I'll say that. Final thoughts. I was so excited to get this book. I read the first two kind of back to back because I came into the series after the first book was out. So I read the first book, and then right after I read the first book, a month or two later, the second book came out. So there was no gap, or at least no real gap in between those two books for me. And they just flowed together beautifully, which means that I've been waiting for this third book for a year, and it was worth the wait. It was tough waiting though. And to kind of put my head back in that, to get back in that headspace was a little challenging, especially since I've read a couple of other Apollo books and other series in the meantime, which actually has been really helpful because, like I said, a lot of these books are interconnected in a sense. So it's helpful to know what Piper and Jason have been through, for example, or when he talks about Leo. Yes, Leo was in the second book, but then he's in a book with Jason and Piper and the whole crew, as far as, Percy and Annabeth and all of those guys as well. So yeah, it took a second to kind of get back in that headspace, but when I was in it, it felt really good. So I'm looking forward to book 4. I think it's gonna get more real. We're gonna get some more reality thrown at us here, which is a good thing. At some point, I usually talk about dust and books, whether those things show up in a book. I didn't see them in this book, so what would be comparatively awesome? Possibly the cistern environment that they find themselves in. I don't know, something about that imagery is peaceful and happy. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know that I really have anything comparatively on that one. So I guess that's it for today, you guys. If you have read the other two, you definitely want to read this one. If you haven't read the other two, I recommend that you read them and then get on the third book. It's a great time to join the series. And that is all for today, you guys. So thank you so much for listening to iHeart Reading. Damn It, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by yours truly, Jen Johnson. If you are in the Asheville area and would like to be on the show, if there's a book that you've read that you loved and or hated, let me know. Contact me somehow. You can contact me either via Instagram or Facebook. Mostly Instagram. I'm not really on Facebook that much. You can also contact me, of course, via Podbean in the comments section, iTunes. So if you have an iPhone, that would be your podcast app, and you can find it through there. If you have an Android phone, you can find the podcast on Google Play Music, which is the orange play button. And all of that you can find at iHeart Reading, Damn It. And in all of those places, I think you can leave a comment. Probably the easiest place, however, would be Instagram. So leave me a message there, and I would love to have you on the show. Also, once a month, we have a drawing for a free book. So you can potentially win a free book if you live in the contiguous United States of America. For more details, go to the Instagram page, iHeart Reading, Damn It. And I think that's it, you guys. Thanks for listening. If you have any suggestions for books on what I should be reading, please let me know. Again, Instagram is probably the best space for that. And that's it. Oh, you can also find us on Stitcher if you'd like. All right. That is everything I have for today, you guys. Thank you for listening. And keep reading, you guys, because reading is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Power is really just whatever your internal version of success is. So focus on the inner and not the external, although there is some external to get to the internal, I suppose. But anyway, thank you for listening, you guys. Until next time, keep reading and love what you got. Bye.